Yeah, there is this perception that, oh my God, this is the end of the world. We're living in Terminator, Matrix kind of stuff, and it's going to take over and kill us all, right? But it's important to note that we're still in the relatively early stages. There are limitations. And yeah, there's a limit to what is possible, what can be done presently. But at the same time, it is arguably already having an impact. And as you pointed out, one can extrapolate what may or may not happen in the future. So from my point of view, and perhaps it's overly simplistic, I appreciate your perspective. From in the tax world, as tax professionals, there is roughly, just very crudely speaking, there's the advisory side and there's a compliance side. So there's doing the physical tax returns in whichever jurisdictions someone may or may not be exposed. And there's the providing the advice, right? So let's start with the easier one first, which is the compliance. So I don't know what it's like in the jurisdictions that you're exposed to, but definitely in the US, it may not be ChatGPT, but there is artificial intelligence being applied to the process of preparing tax returns. So the US is notoriously complex. There's quite a number of software providers. They ask you questions, and based on your responses, they compile a tax return. So that is already happening. What do you, before we get to the tax planning, which is of course the more exciting part, what is your thinking on the compliance side?
Yeah, I mean, that's Darren, thank you very much for this clarification. I myself am fully on the advisory side and less on the compliance side. So I somehow skipped that and immediately went into the advisory part. But of course, the low-hanging fruit is in the compliance area. So it is as you said, what are the typical things that we could encounter? So it is help with preparing tax returns. So it's not for General Electric or some mega corporation. But I mean, for somebody who has, he's working from home and who has some expenses that he or she would like to deduct. So I can imagine that is sort of quite easy to do. Basically, a chat system where you can enter all sorts of queries and you will get responses, and it will cover basically very typical scenarios of a solo entrepreneur, for instance. But of course, also on the side of the tax authorities, and definitely they're doing that in Austria, and I'm sure that they have been doing that for decades already, or for years already in the US. That is checking tax returns. I mean, you can run all sorts of analyses, and it's maybe a bit less than AI. Sometimes it's just statistics. You can run all sorts of analysis to see whether there are any strange outliers, any strange things in the tax return or even in the underlying accounting system. So these are two areas. Then of course, for businesses, I can imagine that we are. I mean, it is already the case, and it's probably just going to get more and more automated accounting. So basically, you have a stack of invoices, and they are scanned and sent into the system, and the system will automatically basically carry out the bookkeeping, the accounting. There will be a proposal. You just have to press enter if that's fine, and you just press enter the whole time, and basically everything will be booked correctly. The system will read, okay, this is a supplier, this is a utility company, this is I just purchased a desk, or I just purchased a printer, and it will automatically book things into the correct accounting box. So these are in the areas of compliance. Definitely, we will see the first results of this automation and the usage of AI.
That's an important point. Both, I mentioned on the side of the taxpayer, but on the side of the authorities, absolutely. So I think it's Palantir, which is, for those who don't know, it's a huge technology company, quite popular, but they still have, as far as we're aware, a pretty substantive contract with the Internal Revenue Service in the US. And part of that, I mean, the terms are obviously confidential, but I would imagine they're bringing some sort of technological intelligence to the compliance process on the part of the federal government. So absolutely, it definitely would add value, not just for taxpayers, but for tax authorities themselves.
So if you're a 6, 7, or 8-figure investor, entrepreneur, or business owner who needs a tailor-made solution from a qualified team of professionals, we can help you achieve the international lifestyle, the freedom, and even the tax savings you're looking for. Visit us at htj.tax and live that international life.